Hello, you're listening to Property Untangled on 107 FM. Here to assist you through the world of property investment, myself, Dave Petersen. Episode 4, From Investor to Host, the serviced accommodation shift. Today we're talking about a model that's been growing fast across Hull and beyond. Serviced accommodation. Maybe you've heard about it, maybe you're already considering it. My guest today, Natalie Anfield from BETTO Accommodation, has made that journey. From property investor to full-time serviced accommodation provider, and now even a manager. So, over the last 7 years, she's here to share what really works, what doesn't, and how the numbers stack up. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you for having me.
So, Natalie, please tell us a little bit about your background, obviously where you started, why property, and where you are today.
So I came from a corporate background. I was in corporate sales for 12 years. Obviously, seeing that we was involved with projects from the ground upwards, I was involved in doing lighting designs. So I was amongst a lot of people who was investing in properties, projects, but obviously from a different perspective because I wasn't looking after my money, I wasn't looking after my turnover, but I was seeing from the beginning right to the end result. Being amongst that set of people really inspired me to look at kind of what I was investing my personal money into, what scope I could go with, and what I could get involved with. I was in corporate world for like 12 years, and it wasn't until maternity leave when they wouldn't have me back part-time that I decided to make the jump and decided to start investing in property.
So do you think the light bulb moment was having the child to then force you to take that jump?
It definitely forced me to make it. It was something that I needed to do for many, many years. When I was in the office for many years, I would sit scrolling on Rightmove, looking at properties, and I actively watched the market. But I just wouldn't ever make that leap because it felt unsafe. I didn't feel like I had enough knowledge to go and do it myself. Obviously, coming from maternity leave, there was no other option. I just thought now is the time to go and do this. So obviously on the back of that, during maternity leave, we invested in our first 2 properties ourselves.
Right, so that's how the journey started then. So you did dig in, learn the knowledge, learn about Hull. Was it specifically Hull, or did you look further afield on the property journey? Right move?
Only in Hull, so lots of people that I worked around had lots of buy-to-let properties. So I was watching them like file their own accounts and I was watching them do their own renovations. So I was in kind of those circles and I did have lots of people that I could ask.
That's all right. So an incredible start to the journey, really, taking that leap and buying two investment properties. Is certainly a big challenge.
It was scary because we refinanced our own residential house to be able to fund those first properties. And obviously looking back even now to where we are today, are those 2 properties that I'd take on today? Probably not.
We're going to bring service accommodation to light. So this first part, let's deep dive into the transition and why. So why buy to let to SA? What made you look at that service accommodation? And firstly, what is service accommodation to people that haven't heard about it?
Serviced accommodation is in brackets Airbnb, but I would use that term very, very like loosely. People always associate short-term lets with Airbnb, but that is not what we're about. Obviously, your Airbnb, you're not in control of your clientele, you're not in control of the market, you're not in control of the business whatsoever. And the footfall is just lots of tourists, lots of visitors, and they're often booking 1-2 night stays. And on the back of that, you can have lots of issues. So we've seen other hosts struggling with young people booking 2 night stay, 1 night stays, and ultimately they're there just to have a party. And how are they managing that? Obviously, the clientele is going just through a platform and nothing's really getting vetted properly, particularly on other platforms. Airbnb do obviously their own ID checks, but particular other platforms, there's no checks at all on these clients that are going into your properties. So serviced accommodation is ultimately, it's a fully furnished property which is fully loaded with everything for somebody to have a home-to-home stay. So they've got comfortable beds, mattresses, dressing tables, mirrors. We put in ironing boards, hair dryers. The kitchen is fully equipped so that They can cook a very decent, healthy meal. They've got tables and chairs. They've got comfortable sofas. They've got the smart TV so they can use all of the apps. Everything just so they can have a comfortable stay.
Why has that suddenly become about is, people could rent homes, stay there and be their forever home. Obviously, we've got an abundance of hotels in the area. So why do you think this really came into play?
So we noticed a massive gap in the market, particularly in Hull, because we have so many power stations, we have the wind farms, we have loads of local factories which bring in lots of contractors. So as well as the contractors, you've also got like home relocators. So you've got people waiting on like new home builds getting built. So they could need like a 5 or 6 month period where they're waiting on their house being built. So the contractors in particular, obviously you mentioned about hotels, but in a hotel all they're getting is a bed and an ensuite bathroom. Obviously, when we deliver, like this is what we can offer. They're getting the lounge area, they're getting the kitchen so they can cook. They can clean, they can sit comfortably in a lounge and socialise together as a group.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I certainly see the huge audience for that. And I think Hull has to be celebrated with these very successful companies bringing people into the city. I think the likes of, Leeds and Manchester and York, you can see that hustle and bustle in the city. Is that generally then the feel that you're going for?
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, even though a lot of these factories are on the outskirts of Hull, I would say 80% of these corporate companies actually like to be inside the Hull city centre area because they've got the restaurants, they've got the bars, so they've got the flexibility of having everything inside the house, but also they step outside the door and they've got the local shops, the local stores and the support in the local community as well.
And on the back of that, it's giving a real boost to our city centre, and it's been on the agenda for a long time with regards to the City Council trying to get that boost. So I certainly see that kind of niche space in that, and if we can improve as many of them flats and residential premises in the city, that's certainly going to be great stuff. Winding it back a little bit, what are the key differences that you've noticed moving from traditional rentals to this?
A massive one is obviously revenue. Mm-hmm. So it's a big focus point at the moment where buy-to-lets, because landlords are being hammered, interest rates have been gradually increasing. I know obviously they've started to come down very slightly, but typically on a buy-to-let at the moment, people are making anywhere between £200 and £400 a month. With a short-term rental, because you're charging a nightly rate, your revenue, your net profit can be anywhere between £1,500 to £2,500 per month per property, yep. Which is a huge increase on the revenue, like the return. So for us, it was an absolute no-brainer.
That's allowing you to buy properties with, a significant risk element reduced. If you're taking that property and being able to turn it into an SA, then that uplift is huge, right? You can step into more expensive properties, I imagine, because quite often in Hull we're thinking typical buy-to-let in postcode of HU3 or HU9. We call them the cash cows. We're buying them at a very low price to then just rent out. And as you're rightly saying, that profit is getting less and less because of compliance, because of interest rates and etc. So it allows you to be able to purchase with a little bit more risk, less risk.
There's definitely less risk involved. Like other things to mention as well is the abolishment of Section 21. So landlords are acting like very cautiously at the moment. The beauty of short-term rentals is you are only tied in for on a 4-week agreement with your client. So if there are any arrears in payments, actually, you're able to move that guest on and move them out. Whereas with a typical rental, it could be small court proceedings. You have to issue these Section 21 notices to try and get repossession of the property back.
Yeah. And they are bringing in, obviously, it's not bringing it indefinitely, but it's in talk to, obviously, if they do issue Section 21 for grounds, then likely it is they have to sell that property or not re-let it for a certain amount of period of time. So I guess the shift is going to become more apparent. Hopefully we can stabilise that and continue to make it work. So just briefly then, wanting to assist people if they're looking at service accommodation, what are like the hidden costs that other operators may overlook within this strategy?
I would say there's lots of courses going around at the moment offering people trying to get into the serviced accommodation market with no money down. There's definitely costs to consider because obviously you're going to be taking on a property which is unfurnished. So you have to consider the cost of furnishing that whole property, which does accrue very quickly when there's things like your pots and your pans, your plates, and all of these things you do need to buy good quality products because the saying goes, you buy it cheap, you're going to end up buying it twice.
It sounds like a mammoth task, and I think what we probably need to do is dive into this a little bit more because it sounds exciting. To anybody out there now is going, well, I'm not going to have a buy-to-let, I'm going to do this. There's got to be the pros and cons. So is there any misconceptions regarding the service accommodation route and strategy?
The only other thing I would say is when people are considering jumping to serviced accommodation, they haven't really considered the legalities in the background. So there'll be somebody with a buy-to-let mortgage and they contact us saying, can we switch it to serviced? Well, is your mortgage provider going to allow you to do that? So that's definitely something that you need to look into. Your insurance, standard buy-to-let insurance, most probably won't cover you for serviced accommodation. So there is, obviously, these things are often likely to become more expensive, but obviously on the back of that, you're then getting that nightly price, which ultimately is going to outweigh all of these prices total together, most definitely.
It's still generating that, profitable income, isn't it?
Yeah.
To the baseline buy-to-let. And I think that, like you say, that it's not a new concept, but it's certainly growing rapidly. And I think that is the real pressure of the compliances, the changes and the reforms that's happening. Natalie, thank you very much for that. It's given us a real good insight to this exciting strategy. But I urge the listeners to grab a cuppa. We're going to learn a little bit more about this and the do's and don'ts.
This is Property Untangled with CityGate North, connecting people, properties and investment opportunities across our region. For more information, visit citygatenorth.co.uk.
Welcome back to part 2 of Property Untangled on 107 FM. Myself, Dave Petersen, and I'm with guest Natalie Anfield from Investor to Host, the serviced accommodation shift. What I want to do here is let's talk about the other side, the challenges and the lessons that you've learned over the last 7 years from buy-to-let properties and the shift to this amazing serviced accommodation world. Let's start with what's been your biggest challenge since moving into serviced accommodation?
For us personally, it's demand. So we now have a huge clientele base and we physically cannot set up and offer as much accommodation that we actually have demand for. So we actively are looking for new landlords, new hosts that may have open calendars that don't have many bookings in there, to basically partner with them and basically work together to create these full calendars what everybody is looking for, because we do have the clientele waiting for them.
Very interesting that demand is so high. Obviously, we know that you purchased them yourself. You've now stepped into the managing sides. Do you partner with estate agents, or do you go out there looking to find investors or new people looking to step into the game? Can you help and assist that way too?
We have found that a lot of estate agents in Hull don't like the rent-to-rent strategy. And I don't know if it's just because they don't really know a lot about it. But when you're actually speaking to landlords directly, there's huge advantages for landlords. Obviously, we are going in and we're cleaning these properties every week. We're going in and doing weekly inspections. So from a point of view is the property getting well managed and looked after? Absolutely they are. For serviced accommodation, obviously the property has to be in very, very good condition and it has to be extremely well presented. And that is the condition what is kept throughout the length of time that we've got these properties on board. So we do have 3 strategies behind us. So we have properties that we own personally. We do the rent-to-rent strategy. And then obviously the third is where we do partner with other hosts. They may already have had it set up and it's already fully furnished. or they might just want us to kind of step in and do everything from the full setup to the full hands-off management offering that we do offer.
You've mentioned the challenge there being obviously the demand, but isn't the challenge there cleaning them, operating them, managing them, getting paid for them? Is that not a real challenge in itself?
I would say for somebody who is just starting up in serviced accommodation, definitely don't be blindsided by the potential revenue that could be coming on the back of it. There is a lot of maintenance, management and cleaning is massive. Obviously, they say that you're only as good as your cleaning staff. So make sure that you've got good management, maintenance and cleaning staff on board, because they are basically the bread and butter of your business.
Kind of wrapping up this little part with regards to the bigger picture for landlord, is there a little bit of advice that you'd give to someone that's looking to switch one of their rentals? A little bit about the knowledge and the compliance in actually running this as a business?
I would just say look at the overall condition of the property. I've seen landlords before try and cover up properties that aren't in very good condition. The standard of serviced accommodation is higher than a standard rental. It has to be in very good condition. Also consider things like, is there parking? Is there good internet signal? All of these things the corporate clients absolutely love.
So, Natalie, in your own words then, just sum up the switch from buy-to-let to SA for somebody that maybe doesn't know or wants to invest there, or is just starting out in property.
If you are looking for a greater return on your investment, I would definitely consider switching to serviced accommodation. Be mindful of your management team, your cleaning team. I would also say know your clientele. So that's a massive thing for us. So don't rely on online platforms. Own your business. Know your clients. Get reviews from them. Get feedback. Ask them, how do you improve? That's been a massive thing for us. So listening and not being scared as well to reinvest and upgrade anything that these clients say that they would like to see.
Great stuff. So understanding that serviced accommodation, and I guess it's the facts of the location where you kind of buy these properties. Can you give us an insight to how you do that for your business and people looking to invest?
So a massive element for us is networking. So we surround ourselves with people who do have access to properties that don't hit Rightmove and Zoopla. So we do try and buy properties that may need a bit of renovating, but obviously uplifting them, being able to put our personal touch on them and making them fully equipped for serviced accommodation is massive for us.
There's been some really brilliant insights there. So for anybody that's looking to invest in property, we thank you very much, Natalie, for joining me and helping untangle the world of serviced accommodation. So if you're listening and want to learn more about property in Hull, keep listening. We're going to give you a few more insights. Let's myth bust, and I'm going to give you a spotlight area that I believe is great for serviced accommodation.
Property Untangled on 107 FM with CityGate North, helping landlords and property owners sell with ease and matching them to ready investors. Call 01482 429 090.
Welcome back to part 3, where I'm going to just myth bust and deep dive into one spotlight area, and that is Victoria Dock. It's HU9. Let's just mention it's east side of the river, and there's a lot of talk about that side, especially with surrounding rugby. Let's not go there though. Let's talk about property. Average house price, that is around £169,000, and that's typical over the last year. There's a lot of flats and apartments, and that's seen the most recent sales with average house prices of 117. Certainly a capital appreciation on that area over significant years. Semi-detached properties are there. There is some 4 beds, luxury, maybe overlooking the river too, and they reach £300,000. So the rental price is there. We're looking at $850 per calendar month generally, and that's just for a 2-bed. The flats achieve very similar. The area's regeneration is a huge part of that £42 million Humber frontage scheme. That's the tidal flood defences that were upgraded around the Victoria Dock. It certainly has a great feel to that village-like part of HU9. So there's walkways, the upgraded footpaths, and we're just a close walk to the city. And that's why I feel it's perfect for that serviced accommodation strategy. as well as the typical buy-to-lets. So that's the area. So I'm going to just myth bust a little bit. So serviced accommodation only works in city centres. Well, there's no demand in the residential areas. Let's tackle this. Natalie mentioned that actually it does bring life to the city, and that's certainly a huge part of it. But just stepping outside the city to an area such as Victoria Dock, it generates that quieter residential area, and it's convenient for those people that are contracting in and out of the city. When we talk about Hull and traffic, that certainly is an issue that people often forget. We hope that the regeneration that continues will make this a lot more easier, but again, we can step out of the city and explore other properties for the serviced accommodation game. Let's round this whole podcast off with a tip. So it's exploring your options. One strategy doesn't always work for all the properties, but certainly have a look, explore your opportunity within that property to decide the right strategy for you, the property, and your clientele. That wraps up episode 4 of the Property Untangled on 107 FM. Myself, Dave Petersen, everything property investing in Hull.